wanted to kick it off with this, and so much of this is about fandom and community and coming together, and oftentimes I see here we got Marvel, Star Wars, and DC, and sometimes they put in a bit of a versus match, and I want to do away with all of that today. I want to hear from your guys' fandom sides, what upcoming projects in Marvel, DC, or Star Wars, could be whichever one, are you most looking forward to this year? And Sean, you can't just say Superman. You know, you got to come up with something else. So let's start with Vivien.
Well, I mean, I haven't done much in the Star Wars universe, like filming-wise, since Obi-Wan, but I was really excited for when Skeleton Crew came out.
Ooh.
That was a really fun one because I actually already knew Robert, who plays Neil, before, because I'd met him at R2LA, which is a droid event held in LA. And he was a really sweet kid, so I really enjoyed that. We got to do the premiere at Disneyland, and it was a super fun premiere. But I was really happy to have some other kids my age in Star Wars that I was able to kind of welcome into the fandom a little bit, and
That's cool.
that was really fun to do. So I think the show turned out really good. I really enjoyed Skeleton Crew. I kind of felt like it was almost like the Star Wars version of Stranger Things, which I think was just really amazing, and it was kind of exactly for the audience it was catered to, and I loved it. I loved the show, so I think definitely that one.
Wow, you're really good at reviewing. I saw like a lot of people like going, she's right. Yeah, she's our voice of the people right now. I love seeing that. And Daniel, what about yourself? Anything upcoming that you're like, I cannot wait to watch this?
Well, back to Vivien's comment, I think it was more like Goonies, but I guess it's a different generation, right? Like, I thought it was more of a Star Wars Goonies.
Yeah.
And like Vivien, I didn't have very many kids that I got to play with on Star Wars, so I was kind of on my own, and I just kind of became an adult really quickly. With Star Wars, you know, they're constantly bringing out new stories and new arcs and new developments on different characters and stuff like that. We just did the Bad Batch, where they allowed me to voice Mox, and then that was the end of the season. So you never know where they will create from or bring forward, and you never know when you'll see me reprise Boba, hopefully in the not near future.
Hopefully in the near future. And
Yeah.
Sean, what about yourself?
Yeah, let's see. What am I excited about besides the NBA playoffs? You know, as far as Marvel goes, I used to have a guy on the inside who would tell me what was going on with Marvel, but now I don't know as much. I'm a lot more curious to hear what you guys are excited about what's coming out. But certainly with DC, it's super, super cool. As you mentioned, Superman, I know that I'm really excited to see the Lanterns television series. I had a blast doing Creature Commandos. It's one of my favorite things that I've worked on in my career. I know there's a Peacemaker season 2 coming out. There's more series, and so like, you know, from talking to my brother James about that stuff and knowing sort of what the overall vision is for the world building, I think is really, really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. That Weasel episode of Creature Commandos, that was one of the craziest things we saw at the end of last year. That was awesome.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask, Vivien, you played such an iconic character as Leia, known for leadership, strength, and her rebellious spirit. But stepping into her younger years, it opens up new layers we haven't seen before. Was there a moment during the process where you found yourself discovering traits about Leia that you hadn't considered before booking the role? And did you discover, and any of those discoveries, did they shape how you approached her performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really, really loved that we got to explore Leia as a person a little bit more in Obi-Wan and getting to see kind of what she was like younger, because we got that a little bit with Luke already, of understanding how he grew up on Tatooine, and like the only thing we really got about Leia was that she grew up as a princess on Alderaan, and like we didn't get much else originally, so having that expanded on was just really special and really amazing. And you know, I've said in probably every panel I've been in, but please, Lucasfilm, I really want to explore like a teenage Leia show. I think it would be so fun to do something like that, because I think it would really open up new parts of this character that we've known for so long, but we haven't really known. And I really, really want to explore that more. So I really hope I can play her again someday and expand more of those special traits that we hopefully will get to see someday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'd all love to see that. That's dang good PR right there. That was really impressive.
Hustling for work, that's smart. I need to do more of that.
Yeah, like,
when I'm up here.
you know they're creating in Star Wars right now. Daniel, I wanted to ask, Boba Fett, he's often seen as like the ultimate bounty hunter, but that larger-than-life image can sometimes overshadow the more subtle layers of who he is. From your perspective, what inner traits or complexities do you think fans might overlook? And which aspects of Boba's character do you wish people would highlight a little bit more?
That's a good question.
That's all I needed today, was for you to say that one time.
That's it, yeah. Pass. You know, the thing about Boba Fett is that he had such a small role in the original 3, or 2, I should say, because he was only in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. But I think people were attracted to him because he was this, you know, not very out there, withdrawn guy who had this military-esque with all these different gadgets and weapons and stuff like that. And, you know, it's funny when they hired me, I wouldn't shut up, so we couldn't be more further than each other. I forgot your question. It just shocked me.
Just which traits of Boba Fett do you feel like you wish fans would highlight a little bit extra that maybe perhaps might be a little overlooked as opposed to just like stoic, ruthless, and all about survival?
I mean, you know, we got to, again, Vivien, we got to go backwards when they came back to me, and we got to see some of the founding and beginnings of Boba Fett and why he became the bounty hunter he did.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't necessary that he hated every bounty hunter. He just especially hated one bounty hunter, which ended up becoming a job. And then being able to learn that Boba Fett had, you know, a father that ended up becoming, or a clone donor that ended up becoming his father, and all these different backstories that, you know, gave more depth to the character. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. It was funny because you read some of the original books and they go to where Boba Fett was a human. Now they have to kind of scratch that all out and rewrite Boba Fett as a clone. So I think every day we're just learning more stuff about Boba Fett, and some of the fan, you know, stories and fictions that people come up with. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's awesome. You know, and I think the fans have a better concept of who this character really is because they're the ones who created him, built him, and made him, you know, the iconic character that he is today.
Well, while you might think the fans have this, and they do, they have a really good understanding of the character, I know the fans love the hell out of your portrayal of Boba Fett, so thank you for all your contributions.
Well, I grew up in the original series, right, when episode 1, 2, 3, and 4, 3, 4, and 5, 4, 5, and 6. I didn't graduate, as you guys can tell. I made this beauty. No. Now I forgot what I was saying again. Yeah, it didn't even really matter.
Well,
Sean?
It was entertaining regardless. Sean, what do you think about Boba Fett? A lot of
you got any insights on Boba Fett?
Well, when I was a child playing with my action figures in the basement, I got a lot of insights. I didn't really. Go on.
A lot of the characters that you play, like Kraglin, Rocket, Weasel, they're outsiders, misfits, or perhaps underdogs. Is there something about these kind of characters that personally resonates with you? Or is it more just about the creative challenge of bringing them to life?
Yeah, I think that as an actor, my career has been very much defined on by a willingness to kind of do anything, you know? And I end up playing a lot of weirdos and oddballs and things like that. I love the idea of taking a character that from the outside is going to seem funny or silly or strange, and tackling it in exactly the same way as I would tackle any other role in a kitchen sink drama or in a Shakespeare play or anything like that, and really try to find the truth. I mean, that's what we do, right? We try to find the truth of whoever the character is. So I think I love the challenge of doing that for a character like Weasel, who and he's a good one to bring up because people would see the Suicide Squad, and then I'd have fans coming up and saying, yeah, wait, Weasel's hilarious. He's so crazy and weird. And I'm like, just wait until you see him in Creature Commandos. It is not as funny as you think it is. And then kind of, trying to, Weasel has a different toolkit than other characters do. He only grunts and and growls and wheezes and howls and moans and chirps and all those things. But I'm still trying to portray the truth of who he is and what he experienced. And I love doing that. I hope I get to do that my whole career and keep playing these characters kind of from left field, you know. That said, I like playing adult 50-year-old males, which is what I am as well. Like, I don't mind playing normal guys also, but like, I'll take all of it, I think, is how I feel, you know.
That's awesome. Any Gilmore Girls fans here? Yeah. I had a lot of people bring up, talk about Gilmore Girls, talk about Gilmore. I was like, I'll make sure to shout out Gilmore Girls.
No, there's no Gilmore Girls in space, sadly.
Not yet. Not yet.
Right, yet.
Vivien, we were talking about how you're a Taekwondo black belt, and which takes a ton of discipline, a ton of focus, and precision. Qualities that I would imagine you naturally carry over into acting, especially in action-heavy roles. How has your martial arts training shaped the way you approach physical performances, like in We Can Be Heroes or Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Well, it's interesting because I think it goes a little bit both ways. I think there were definitely things that I did that were inspired by stunts that I've done, and stunts that I've done that's been inspired by like things that I do. So, yeah, I got my first degree black belt. It took me, I think, 5 years, I'm gonna say. I think 5 years I got my black belt, and when I did We Can Be Heroes, that was in 2019. I was a green belt, I believe, and that was really fun because originally Guppy didn't have the importance in the story that she had. She was kind of just this like, oh, this cute little character for people to be like, oh, she's so cute, and like she didn't have much else. But once Robert like found out that I had done martial arts, we were doing like the first 2 weeks, I want to say, was stunt training because there was so much stunts for the kids to have to do. So it was all on a green screen, and when they figured out that I could do that stuff, they did a few tests, and then Robert like rewrote the script in a way where Guppy would have more fight scenes and more importance to the actual story. Which I really liked, and then that ended up being a really fun role to play. I got to do a lot of really fun stunts on that. And then I think for Leia, again, I did a lot of my own stunts on that. But there was definitely stuff, like when I was falling off the building, I had to do a lot of like core strength and stuff to get there, and I even worked with a woman who was, I believe, a ballet teacher to get me to that strength level. And then I think that kind of inspired me to do aerial silks, which is my new kind of active activity that I do now. And I think so that was kind of an example of where the acting stunt kind of inspired me to figure out that I could do something else as well, and I think that worked both ways.
Wow. You sound like a very lazy person. Unproductive. Wow, that's great. I'm not getting exhausted hearing you talk about all this physical exertion that you're doing. Well, Daniel.
I'm a third-degree black belt couch sitter. Yes.
Will you fight Vivien on stage today?
I am not getting beat up by a 13-year-old kid on stage today. That wasn't in my bingo cards for 2025. She wins.
She wins today.
Yes.
Boba Fett, he's known as the symbol of survival and grit, but as a kid, you played him at one of the most vulnerable points in his life, watching his father die. As an adult looking back, is there a layer to Boba that you understand now that you didn't as a kid? I just wanted the super introspection questions with you today.
You know, I don't think anyone really knew Boba Fett before we came back and he reprised in Attack of the Clones. So I think we all got to find new layers and stuff like that about him. I mean, now Jango Fett is now the clone template for the whole entire clone army, you know, and they just take a bucket off and it looks like my dad. Which, as we discovered in the Clone Wars, it got very confusing for Boba Fett, and I think one of his most famous lines was like, "You're not my brother," you know, and I think that established that relationship where Boba Fett had to start to disconnect himself from the clones so that he was able to become the bounty hunter that he is today, without any sympathy. But I mean, he's a very layerful character. I mean, now we've gone full circle and he came out of the Sarlacc pit getting to see him and then becoming, you know, the Boba Fett that we now have today, it's kind of different. I liked the story. I got a lot of people who were like, it wasn't the best, but I mean, I really truly liked it, and they brought me back as a flashbacks as a 13-year-old kid again.
Cool.
So
that's really cool.
yeah, it was nice to get a check again.
Yeah.
Lucasfilm written on it. Like, thank you.
Thank you, Lucasfilm, for all the money. Yeah, thank you. And Sean, portraying both Kraglin and, of course, the on-set reference for Rocket, it requires a unique blend of physicality and emotional nuance. I think the general assumption is that you probably spent a little bit more time doing, like, character development homework for the live-action performance more than the mocap roles for, like, a Rocket or a Weasel. And we were talking about that a little bit earlier with Weasel. Is there a part of the preparation process of doing a mocap role for like a Weasel, the process in terms of internal character development that people might not actually expect or be aware of that you'd like to share?
You know, really the most important piece of it is that it's not that different for the performer. Okay. You know, there's technical things that are different in terms of how the performance is being captured, but in terms of my preparation and how I approach, how I go from script to set, I don't really look at the characters as being incredibly different. It's just a different, you know, like I was saying with Weasel, it's a different set of, it's a different toolbox I have to use in order to portray the character. And with Rocket's a little different too, because I'm only doing a piece of Rocket. You know, it's like it takes a bunch of people to create Rocket, and a lot of my job is really interacting with the other actors and being available for them. But you know, I think that the important thing to take away is that when you're doing these characters, because increasingly there's more and more characters that are on green screen or on that are you know, CGI or CGI adjacent, you know, and as technology gets better, if you're an actor, there's just more and more work in that field, and I think that's why it's important to always go back to the story, the character. What is this? You know, just the basics of acting. What is this character's motivations? What are they? What makes them tick? What makes them who they are? And then you. And then it's really not that different. You can maybe heighten some of that stuff when you know that the camera's picking up everything physically. But for the most part, it's more similar than it is different.
I love to hear that, because I know there's a big conversation over the last few years about like mocap and its role in acting, and to hear that it is pretty much like the same level of dedication and homework and preparation is refreshing to hear.
Definitely.
I feel like it should be recognized more. So thank you for sharing that. Vivien, you've already worked with some pretty legendary actors, obviously, like Ewan McGregor, for example, Sandra Bullock. What's been one of the best pieces of advice you picked up from them about staying grounded or your craft?
Oh no.
Well, what advice have you given them? That's what we should be asking, yes. Viv.
It's just difficult because I mean I've worked as an actor for almost 9 years, and so remembering everything everybody's ever said to me is difficult, because I've received a lot of good advice over the years from people I've worked with, and I think I've had a lot of people who are inspirational to me. And this is a question I would have to do later for homework. So wait, okay, so I will figure this out. But I think there were definitely a few things that I heard that I really liked. I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt was a big inspiration for me. I worked with him on Mr. Corman, which was his show, and I think he was just such an inspiration to me because he told me like that nothing in your life ever has to be limited unless it's by yourself, because that was because he wrote, directed, starred in that movie, and like produced and edited. He did it like all, and I think he was really that kind of inspiration of you don't have to choose to just be a writer or just be an actor, that you can do all of it. And I think I received a lot of practical advice as well, like Sandy taught me to jump before like a big adrenaline rushing scene because it kind of got your blood flowing and it got you to that point. And then I think some of the best advice that I've received was from a woman named Sammy who worked with me on Obi-Wan. She was like kind of like my acting coach, but she was like less of a she went over the lines with me and more helped me understand how to get into character. And she taught me to choose a color for my characters and choose a color for myself, and then try and imagine myself like with that color as my aura. It was kind of confusing, but like it's hard to explain, but it really helped me kind of separate myself from my characters in a way that if a character got hurt, it wouldn't hurt me personally, and it made me able to really personally feel those characters without having to feel the emotional trauma that might be inflicted on them.
That was actually a very beautiful answer. Yeah, that was a great answer.
Took me a minute, but I got
that was
there.
very beautiful. Yeah. Wow. Daniel, I'm not going to ask you a question about deconstructing Boba Fett's past again, I promise. I was watching, last night, I was watching the Star Wars Celebration video where you brought your son out on stage. And it got me curious about something, because you were speaking, too, about Temuera Morrison, of how he really looked after you on set, and how you two have stayed friends over the years. And since
Until he stole my role.
Until he stole your role, that son of a... Yeah. But since he played your father on screen, has that bond ever influenced how you think about fatherhood or mentorship in your own life? Is there anything that you took away from that relationship that stuck with you beyond Star Wars?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I grew up without a father, so, I mean, as a young man, you know, you don't realize until you get older and you have your own son how important it is to have a male role model in the household. And my son just turned 7, like, 4 days ago.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll give that to his mom. She deserves it more than I. You know, Tim, as soon as I walked in, he was a huge actor in New Zealand. And I didn't have a clue who George Lucas was, Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman, although she was gorgeous. But Temuera Morrison, I knew who he was because I'm from New Zealand. He's from New Zealand. He made a name of himself and became this iconic actor all over the world that most of us New Zealanders who wanted to be an actor inspired to become. And once he walked through the door, I just got starstruck. And
Wow.
He walked right up to me and he goes, well, I guess I'm going to be playing your dad. You're going to be my son. You call me dad, and I'll call you son. So I was like, okay, Dad. And he just looked back down at me and goes, okay, son. So I spent a lot of time with him. So from that moment, we really became father and son, and all through filming Star Wars with him, I'm like, hey, Dad, where are you going? Oh, I'm just going to my trailer, son. You know, you want to come with me, boy? I'm like, oh, yes, I'll come with you, Dad. So we kind of followed each other around. I got a funny story, actually, because I didn't grow up with a father. When I finally got a father, Jango Fett, he called my house. And my sister picked up the phone, and she's like, we were always taught to ask who's speaking. It was kind of a polite thing we were all taught. Like, oh, can I ask who's speaking? She's like, oh, this is his dad. And yeah, you can imagine that, right? My sister said, what? Goes, this is his dad. And she goes, oh, click, and hanged up the phone. Well, she thought, well, now he's famous, you start to call, right? Like, now you want to have a son. So he had to call back, and he's like, oh, dude, this is his dad, Temuera Morrison. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. You know, so then she came running around the house looking for me, and I kind of felt a little resentment after that from the rest of my siblings, like you think you're better than us because now you've got a dad kind of thing. But no, he's taught me a lot. You know, he told me a lot about being humble, about our culture, and, you know, making sure we keep the culture alive, and how important it is to be a native Maori, you know, kid in person. And just about being there, you know, like he always calls, he'd always check on me. When we're at conventions, you know, we're still stuck to each other like glue. Me more to him than him more to me. But yeah, I just try to show up, you know. I was telling someone earlier, you know, my favorite job today is being able to have the opportunity of taking my son to school and then picking him up after school, you know, and just those simple things like seeing him come out of school and, Dad, throw his school bag at me, you know, while he goes and runs and plays with the other kids is one of the most fulfilling things I've had in my life. So just try to show up, you know, and do your best. As a father, you don't know what you're doing, but you just hope that you being there and being present is the most important thing. So, yeah.
Wow, so he sounds more like Aquaman's dad than Boba Fett. Yeah.
Oh, I got a funny story about that one, too. It's got some bad language in it, but not from my side. But I tried to take a picture with me, Jason, and him, and Tim was okay with it, and Jason, I don't think he really liked his Star Wars brother very much. I'm like, we're kind of brothers. We share the same dad. Can we take a picture together? Yeah, Sean?
Oh, my God, that's hilarious. I didn't think there'd be so many funny Temuera Morrison stories. We were talking about siblings, and Sean, you and your brother James, you've obviously worked together on so many projects. But it's sibling dynamics, especially in creative spaces, can be a little complicated for some people. What do you think has been the key to maintaining that collaborative energy over the years? And has there ever been a moment where you two didn't see eye to eye creatively, or how do you guys come to solutions if you're not seeing eye to eye?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that so James and I there's 6 in my family, and I'm the youngest, and James is the oldest. So it already helps that we have the dynamic of him being the boss on set. Like, I think if our roles were reversed, it might actually be trickier in a lot of ways if I was his boss. You know, which kind of helps. But we've been working together when we can for pretty much our whole lives, and so we have a shorthand for communicating with one another that I couldn't match it in any other job. You know, we can talk about something and get to the heart of what the issue is creatively. Talking about like working on a scene or something, we can do it very quickly. And I can look over at the monitor. We could be shooting a scene, and I can look at his face on the monitor and know whether he's digging what's going on or if he wants to adjust it. And yeah, there are plenty of times when we have disagreements about something creatively, but I think that we never fight about it. It's like here's what I think, here's what, you know, we respect one another's opinion, and I think it helps that we both are we're both very focused, and we like to have fun. But I always say when people say, well, you know, what's it like working with your brother? I always say it's you know, fortunately he's very good at his job. Otherwise, I think it would be a lot harder. And I think he would say the same about me. So I think just the fact that we carry that mutual respect for one another, and we work things out. And the other thing that's important, I think this is important whether you're working with friends or family or your you know, boyfriend or girlfriend or spouse or whatever, that like you have to be able to separate creative differences from your real life. You have to know that like that you can say to somebody like, I don't like that idea, or I think that's all wrong. And it's not personal. You're saying that the way that collaborators talk and not the way that, like, you know, siblings fight, you know? And I think it's good to always keep those things separate. But, you know, we get along really well. We don't fight a lot in my family. We're not competitive with one another. So I think that is really kind of the key.
I appreciate all the answers from all three of you on that, and you guys gave a lot of great wisdom to all that. Thank you guys so much.
I actually have one more thing to talk about
Please.
with that. So I'm actually an only child, so I'm the only one here that doesn't have siblings. But there was a time that, like, some of the internet made up a brother for me. It's so weird because I know where this came from, but it's still so funny to me that still some, like, celebrity pages say that I have a brother. I do not have a brother. I am an only child. But what happened
that DNA.com or whatever it is, they're like, well, you actually do.
But what happened was I grew up with cats. So I have 5 cats. Woo. And yes. And my cats have always been kind of like my siblings, especially Salvador. He is my mom's cat, so he's always been kind of like my baby brother. And so in one interview when I was like 6 years old, somebody asked me, do you have any siblings? And I said, no, but I have furry siblings. I have a furry baby brother. And I guess people took that as just a weird way to describe a baby brother. So people started putting online that, oh, she has a brother, but her parents like to keep her brother out of the public eye, so he's never on her Instagram, and she never talks about him. And I was like, and it was just so funny to me that it kept showing up on these websites of just, and she has a brother that she doesn't like to talk about, a baby brother. I'm like, that's not the case. I talk about him all the time. You just don't realize it. You don't realize that I'm talking about a cat. He does show up on my Instagram. But I just thought it was so funny that, like, if you look it up, I'm definitely sure that there are still some sites that will say, and she has an unnamed brother. And I'm like, nope, I've told you his name, and also he's a cat.
Wow. Well, nowadays you could have a brother that's a cat.
That's funny because my question was going to be, can you tell us about your furry brother? So I appreciate you answering that for us in advance. Sean, do you mind? Would you be willing to tell the audience your cats' names?
Oh yeah, my boys' names are Tommy and the Business, and they are my pride and joy. They're not like you have siblings. They are my children. So they're great. They're getting older, and they've been with us a long time. And yeah, they're 15. You know, they're like they're the best.
They're the best.
Yeah.
I have my wife and I have 4 cats ourselves. So I love that there's a big cat crowd, except for
Yeah.
Daniel for some reason.
Well, no, I got to tell you my cat story. So I love
Here
cats.
we go. Let's go.
I love cats, but one of my wife's cousin was affected by the fire, so they came to our house for like a week and a bit and brought their cat. And they said, this cat is lovely. I mean, I Airbnb'd a house in New Zealand. This cat was the best thing ever. Like, I loved it.
That's a good cat impression, by the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got the videos to prove it. And I was going to get a Bengal cat, but I've got this huge Star Wars collection that I knew that it wouldn't last very long if I got a Bengal. So I'm like, I'll wait till I'm no longer addicted to Star Wars to become addicted to cats. But then my wife's cousin brings this cat along. It was the most vicious, evil thing I could ever imagine. Like, I'm taking it food to feed this thing. As soon as I opened the bedroom door, it's like, I'm like, oh, easy. I'm just trying to give you food. And then, like, I felt like I was a prisoner in my own house because of this cat.
What had you done to deserve that?
Nothing. I rescued this cat from the fires. I'm like, dude, you could have a little appreciation.
I don't know.
So
That's accurate. Do you want to say my baby brother? I have the scratches on my head right now, and then I have a pretty just puncture wound on my foot. And he's my baby brother, and we love each other very much. But that's his way of love.
we would send pictures back to my wife's cousin and be like, oh, here's a picture of a cat. It's like, ah! It's like, isn't she just so cute? Isn't she lovely? I'm like, no, it's the opposite. I haven't been able to go in that room since the cat left. And it left like a couple weeks ago. And I'm still traumatized. I still like, no, I just leave the door shut now in case the cat's still in there. So then she's like, oh, well, can you give it to my wife's mother to bring to LA? I'm like, how am I going to get the cat back into that cat bag with the little bubble on it? Dude, that's another story for another convention. But, man, I'm telling you, for one of the only times I've been afraid in my life for a very long time, this cat was evil. I did nothing. I promise. I love all animals, but this cat?
You've always done something, whether you realize it or not.
That's what everyone always said. Like, Daniel, you must have done something. Like, do I have that face? Like, no, you have that you done something face. No, I swear. I just wanted to pat the cat. I got to show you guys a video now.
Have you
Like, look, this is me and the other cat, the New Zealand cat, the nice one.
Have you guys ever heard of the series My Cat from Hell?
Yes.
No, but I'm watching it now.
My wife and I were on the last episode of that show, so I know what it's like to deal with when you have to work on a relationship with a cat that you feel like, oh my God, I'm a little bit scared of this cat. I'm going to get attacked. So I know what it's like.
We have 5 cats from hell.
We went to Petco and bought all these toys, all these treats and everything. I could not bribe this cat to like me if I tried. You want a cat? Oh, I don't have it. I was going to say, you could have 6 cats.
The thing about cats is
He's like, can we get back to Wookiees and Kratos and stuff?
How do we get on to cats?
The thing about cats is you can't buy them things. It just makes them hate you more. For some
works for
reason.
my wife.
No, the thing is, like, cats are so weird because we will buy them like a $300 cat tower, and they'll be like, eh. And then we'll pick up like a leaf from outside, and they'll just be like, "This is the best toy. This is the best toy in the entire world that's ever existed." I'm telling you, I don't know if it's just like the natural thing of like natural instincts, but if you can find specifically pine needles, their favorite thing, it will get any cat to like just roll over. And also those little fuzzy worms that you drag with an invisible string, I mean, works every time. It works every time.
Speaking
the little fluffy
of-
ones with the googly eyes.
Speaking of cats, I just want to remind everybody that the Pasadena Humane Society is out here as well as part of our event today.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think Greg has one more question.
I have one last question.
Yes.
I know I would get a little bit annihilated, Sean, if I didn't ask about a rumor here.
Oh.
A little rumor. I'm gonna be very careful
Are you
here.
gonna rent a cat? Are you gonna?
Are you gonna buy another cat? There's a rumor about a character you might be playing in this Superman movie. A little Maximum Lord, little Maxwell Lord.
I can neither confirm nor deny those
No,
rumors,
yeah.
but they are out there and they have not been denied. So
So, well, I'll ask theoretically, if you were to play this guy,
Yeah.
how would you balance respecting a character's history with bringing in your own creative instincts?
You know, when I work with James on characters like that, he's very good about being clear about the relevant source material. So it's not like it's not like you necessarily need to go back and research every single iteration of a character that's been around for a long time. We sort of talk about the character. Like, fortunately, I don't have the rich knowledge of comic books that he has. So he already knows all that stuff, but I don't. I'm not a deep diver into comics. And so he'll bring some. We'll talk about the character first, and then he'll point me in the direction of hey, for a little more reference, look at this, maybe look at this, and we kind of keep it on board with what the film is and what his vision is for the movie and for the character.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to see if this is all true or not, this rumor. Well, that's it for our time today. Please give another round of applause. Vivien, Daniel, and Sean, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so
Appreciate
much.
it.